All right, first rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of the channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be chasing the dragon for week 10, heading into week 11 of fantasy football. This is going to be the reactive waiver wire show for the week. In general, I think this is a pretty good week from a waiver wire perspective. Chasing that dragon, especially as late into the year it is. Like the only other thing we would be generally looking at is some type of injury to like some bell cow running back with a bell cow in the wings, to go along with it. And we did get a usage flop. It does look like with the Audric Estime in the Broncos backfield. From a defensive perspective, and again, this is the other thing, like especially later in the week, you're rolling those good defenses, so wasting your either your waiver wire claim on a good matchup, or you're dropping your fab on a reactive defense if you can't be planning ahead to have that good matchup heading into any given week. We are looking at the Packers going up against the Bears. The Bears look like a train wreck. The Lions are going to be going up against the Jags. The Jags look like a train wreck. The Vikings going up against Will Levis is always going to be a roll. The Dolphins going up against whatever's going on with the Raiders. A couple other ones, if you're in deep enough leagues that you got to worry about it, like the Rams going up against Drake may not be a bad idea. You could either go Browns or Saints rolling against each other. Famous Jameis is a turnover machine. There's no one to throw the football to when it comes to the Saints. Also, the Jets going up against the Colts, or the Colts going up against the Jets. They both kind of look like train wrecks. That's probably not a bad thing to be chasing when it comes after it. And then probably the belle of the ball this week, if you can get a hold of them, would be the Texans rolling against the Cowboys. Cooper Rush, the backup quarterback, he will stay the starter this week. It does look like that's what they're talking about. And I think the Eagles were a pretty good roll last week going up against whatever's going on with Dallas right now. But the main ones would probably be the Texans, the Dolphins, the Vikes if they're available. If someone dropped them, Detroit, they may have been dropped going up against the Texans last week, and Green Bay going up against like the train wreck that is Chicago right now. All right, starting off with Audric Estime. He's probably the guy to go get this week. I think in general, he's a pretty good guy to go get with the usage flop going on. I don't know how much receiving work you're going to get. He hasn't been targeted yet. He is one of those guys that projects as a 3-down guy, with the exception of like he's not going to be a speed guy. He's not going to take anything to the house. He's a 4.6 40 guy. So you're going to get somewhat similar to Javonte Williams, attached to what we could say is somewhere between like a not good and a not bad offense when it comes to the Broncos. So again, limited opportunities to score touchdowns. I think Jaleel McLaughlin did get red zone opportunity. Either him or Javonte did get red zone opportunity in this game, even though I think Jaleel was like at 15% and Javonte was at like 29% snaps with this one. Javonte only had 2 touches in this game compared to Audric Estime. But again, like he's going to be a volume-based rushing running back with very little receiving upside. And generally, the 2 things we want is red zone work. That's going to be limited because of the offense in the first place. And then the other thing, if he's not going to get receiving work. So again, what's a win worth to you when it comes to blocks coming up over the bye weeks? And then the other thing is like, how desperate are you as an RB2? Because you may get like a poor man's David Montgomery. That's going to be like very limited opportunities to score touchdowns on a week-to-week variance. So like if you're going to get somewhere between like 10 to 20 touches, and they're not going to be necessarily the good touches, and then that has to translate over into limited red zone opportunities. But again, later in the season, how many opportunities are you going to get another running back? If you missed out on probably the league winner, which is Tyrone Tracy, like Audric Estime would be the next guy up. And then I did look this up before I went live. Juwan Jennings, 60% owned in your Yahoo league, so I don't know how competitive your leagues are. He should have been picked up and held over the bye week. He did 91% snaps, 11 for 7 for 93 in this game. I think that's going to stay relatively consistent. They came out and said like he's going to be in that X role. He's taking over from Brandon Ayuk, and I could definitely see that based off of how the snap share looked between the wide receivers. Ricky Pearsall was at like 94%, or excuse me, 64% snaps in this game. I could definitely see that Juwan Jennings is going to give you a certain amount of 40-degree day floor, like 6 targets to go along with a certain amount of like 10 to 12 targets a week, and he did have 12 targets week 3 against the Rams. So like I think there's a little bit of consistency if he's somehow available in like your less competitive leagues. I would be healthily going after a guy that probably right now is moved up from being a wide receiver 3 to like wide receiver 2 when we're looking at it. The one guy that I would bring up as from a quarterback, I don't think it's a very good quarterback week. For most of your 1 quarterback leagues, probably are going to be a few guys that you could just stream week to week. in your 2 quarterback leagues, there probably isn't anybody available. That's just how it is going to roll. But if you are desperate enough at quarterback, this would be Trey Lance. They already came out and said Cooper Rush will stay the starting quarterback for Week 11. Dak looks like he's done for the year. If you want league-winning upside, I would not wait after waivers to be snatching up Trey Lance, because again, what's gonna win you a league is probably like rushing upside. Don't really care how bad at throwing the football Trey Lance is. He's got rushing upside, so I would be a little bit proactive on the fact that Cooper Rush looked really bad, and Dak's not coming back, and Trey Lance at least has part of the cheat code. So I would be proactive in the portion of waivers and not wait for him to clear. I would pick him up if you're in one of those leagues where you really desperately need that quarterback. All right, moving on to a couple other running backs. Trey Benson, he pops up 27% snaps, 10 for 62, another 2 for 25. I looked this up. He was in the game before this turned into a blowout against the Jets. So he may end up being the guy, and I think Deer Mercado was only like 12% snaps overall in this game. Yeah, it may have finally happened. He may develop into that like RB2 type of role where you're going to get a certain amount of week-to-week usage. That means that you can roll him out there. If not, this would be the week that I would definitely say, after everything else, that he is the cuff now. So if you're going to be proactive again, taking care of him, but I think like reactive wise, you should probably be picking him up and stashing him up, especially as a lottery ticket. The other one right now is Cam Akers. Now, I believe, I don't have my notes pulled up, but I believe that Ty Chandler was at 14% snaps, and Aaron Jones is missing right now with a rib. So there's a possibility that you're going to get 50 to 60% snaps Cam Akers in this offense. They said they specifically went out and they traded for Cam Akers because he's familiar with the offense. So all these things, they're leaning in the right direction towards what's a win worth to you when it comes to either a block, making sure that the guy that you're going up against is not going to be able to pick up 40 to 60% snaps Cam Akers in what would project to be an okay offense. That would be something I would be looking at if you're desperate enough. Maybe better as a 1 week rental than you chasing after Audric Estime. That's why I bring him up. And then not generally interested in Gus Edwards on his 25% snaps, 10 for 55, and was generally a blowout of the Titans. Didn't get the receiving work. And again, he was involved with the game early enough. It does look like it's something going back to a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 type of usage between him and J.K. Dobbins. But the bigger issue that I would look at with Gus Edwards, if you're wondering, is Kaimani Vidal was a healthy scratch, and they brought back Gus Edwards. So there's theoretically a better road for Gus Edwards to be some type of volume-based RB2 with an injury. If you want to be chasing that, but from a standpoint of would I rather have Gus Edwards or Audric Estime? I'm going to be spending on Audric Estime definitely on that one. Wide receivers again. Being somewhat proactive on the reactive waiver wire show. So right now, Dalton Kincaid's dealing with a knee. Don't know a lot about that. You're also looking at Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman with wrists, and Curtis Samuel jumps in 89% snaps, 8 targets. The bye week's week 12. So if you want to kind of guess ahead of time that you might get a 1 week rental Curtis Samuel between him and Matt Collins and Khalil Shakur, and then the vacated targets, I probably would be guessing more on Dawson Knox being more fantasy viable. But if you don't have the ability to go get your Juwan Jennings and you're in that pinch of trying to guess the right guy, again, and I bring this up with Adonai Mitchell, who knows how long Michael Pittman's going to be out. He was at 94% snaps in the game, 6 for 6 for 71. So again, you're trying to guess that someone's going to miss more time, and those vacated opportunities are going to be there when it comes to them. Josh Downs should probably already be rostered. Alec Pierce probably in a lot of leagues should be rostered. Adonai Mitchell will be the one guy. I said that he probably was a roll heading into this week on the Griff. So going after him's not a bad idea. If Jalen Coker got dropped, he probably, I definitely see that he should have been after 45% snaps, not knowing what went on. 88% snaps against the Giants, 8 targets. He led everybody in air yards, and I think he had a red zone target on top of that. I think, again, chasing bad offenses is not a good idea. When it comes to Adonai Mitchell, probably okay offense from a fantasy perspective. When it comes to Curtis Samuel, good offense. Jawan Jennings probably in that like okay to good offense range when it comes down to that. So the biggest thing when you're looking at Jalen Coker and Bryce Young is it's probably not going to be a good offense. But again, the numbers say spend on the guy right now, proactive, don't wait after waivers. Rashad Bateman, if he's available, this is the ongoing debate in the channel. And I bring this up like pieces of good offense and rolling them out there, and they're like your flex wide receiver 3 spots. Ricky Pearsall, he should have been picked up coming out of the bye week just to see how the usage worked out. 64% snaps, 6 for 4 for 73 and a touchdown. So like again, probably is in that wide receiver 3 dart throw range, depending on how deep your league is. Would not be surprised if the 49ers run more 3 wide receiver snaps. Kyle Juszczyk's snaps were down in this game. He was at like I think 37% snaps. Would not be surprised that Pearsall is going to be flirting with 70% snaps, and if you can get like 6 to 7 targets a game, that he would be a wide receiver 3. And I think there's a certain amount of, let's see how to explain this. Debo is going to be Debo. Don't get me wrong, but there's going to be a certain amount of a better football player with Ricky Pearsall than there is going to be with like some of the good athlete stuff when it comes to Debo. And then John Mechie is going to pop up probably for at least one more week. Who knows what's going on with Nico? He was I shouldn't say healthy. He was activated, but then he was not active for the game. And Mechie does like 65% snaps, 6 for 5 for 74 and a touchdown in this one. Would not be surprised if he stays somewhat consistent for at least like one more week as they figure out what's going on with Nico. It wouldn't be surprising if Nico is active. He is going to be on some type of snap count. But a couple other guys, again, this is chasing the dragon. I'll just bring this up. If you're wondering about these guys, MVS 55% snaps, 3 for 3 for 109, 2 touchdowns. One of those was a red zone opportunity. I will never trust MVS. Like there's as good a chance that he's gonna take one to the house on one target as he is gonna drop that one target that he could have taken to the house. So I will never trust him. But hey, you run your roster. And if you're wondering about Tylan Wallace, and I talked about this on I think the sausage video, Tylan Wallace has never had more than 2 targets in a game before he did 3 for 3 for 115 and a touchdown on 19% snaps. This was mostly yak yardage. So like, yeah, I'm not too interested in chasing after him. If you're wondering about that, like if you're in a deep enough league that you're curious about the spike, this would definitely be an after waivers guy. And then there are some tight ends this week. Gesicki, he would pop up like the 71% snaps really interest me on 9 targets. I think he has some red zone targets on top of that. Some of this is going to be based on how long is T. Higgins out. And again, with week 12 sitting there as a bye week, like I would not be surprised that you can at least get one more week of Mike Gesicki and those 9 targets, if it stays somewhat consistent with T. Higgins being out. Tanner Hudson, if you're wondering about him, with the touchdown catch, and then like the 7 for 6, that was on 35% snaps. He's kind of the receiving tight end. Tanner McLaughlin was not brought up. The Cam Gandy was. So like I would not be chasing 35% snaps. This would be the week to go like, spend on Mike Gesicki, at least for a 1 week rental. Also, if you're going to be speculating proactively, on the reactive waiver wire show with Dalton Kincaid, trending towards like missing some time with a knee. There's no news on that. Like he came out, then he went back in, and then he took himself back out. You can talk about like Dawson Knox, it being time to be rolling out Dawson Knox. 70% snaps, 3 for 2 for 40 in this game. Again, vacated targets tend to go to running backs first. That's James Cook. And then second would be tight ends. And you could look at them. Like my co-manager was like, they're just not throwing to Dalton Kincaid. And I'm like, yeah, they are. They're just not very accurate. So again, I don't know how much I'd be chasing after him. And then again, being proactive on the reactive waiver wire show, you are looking at the possibility of Devontae Smith being out with a hamstring. And then Dallas Goedert went out with a shoulder, I think it was. I can bring him up. So like if you want to be talking about, going after the right guy, ankle, Dallas Goedert ankle, they do play on Thursday. So that's why I would bring this up, like spending on Grant Calcaterra now. Again, I just want this to be a thing because like the numbers are saying that it's going to be a thing with the Dallas Goedert being out with the hamstring. 92% snaps, 71% snaps, 93% snaps, 92% snaps, 62% snaps. Part of that's going to be, the blowout on top of Dallas Goedert being out with that ankle. And this would be the one where he theoretically could move up to number 2 in the offense. Didn't quite get it yet, but again, rolling out there against Redskins on Thursday night. If you want to be chasing that thing with all the bye weeks that are available. But that's about what I got for chasing the dragon. So I do like Audric Estime in that RB2 role. Jennings, if he's available, he would be the number 1. I don't know how competitive your league is. Benson and Akers would be like, what are wins worth? Benson's probably a little bit more of a lottery ticket. Akers, you're betting on that you're going to get a missed week of Aaron Jones. Curtis Samuel would be a lottery or a dart throw. Adonai Mitchell, I would spend on. Jalen Coker, I would spend on. Rashad Bateman, again, getting pieces of good offenses in that RB3 or wide receiver 3 range. Expecting that like Deontay Johnson, he will go up from, I think he was only at like 8% snaps. But again, I think Rashad Bateman will stay in that role. So if you're in deeper leagues, going after him. Pearsall, I think, is okay. Wide receiver 3. Mechie, I think you might get 1 week on. The big ones to be going after from a tight end perspective, Dawson Knox, speculating that Dalton Kincaid's going to miss some time, or Gesicki if you think you get 1 more week before the bye week with T. Higgins being out. Grant Calcaterra also going to be a guy that I do like. So anyway, that's about all I got for Chasing the Dragon this week. Basically week 11's waiver wire, and I'll be back tomorrow with the after waivers.